Hi everybody, Rachel here, Treehouse Knits. Welcome to episode 22. Thanks for joining me today. I have a packed show for you. It has been a long time since we've been together. Where do we even begin? You can find me on all the socials as Treehouse Knits. You can also find me on Facebook as Treehouse Knits. I occasionally post on there things that I think you might be interested in. If I'm interested in them, there's got to be other people who are. Videos, articles, that kind of thing. Things that have to do with the fiber arts. Also, our Ravelry podcast page, Treehouse Knits group on Ravelry. You on there can find a welcome thread. Please keep them coming. I love to hear where you're all from. If you do share with me where you're from, I'll put it on our Treehouse Knits podcast map. Take a look at that Google map. It's so cool. You guys are from all over the world. I now have someone from Honolulu on there, which is exciting. They're all exciting. So thank you so much for letting us know you're out there and where you're coming from. Really, really cool. Also, there's a thread on there if you have any questions for us. If you post a question, there's a good chance I will answer it on the podcast. If you have a question, there's other people who probably have a similar question. So, some things that are happening in Treehouse Knits world. We've got a kit along happening right now. I'll put it on the screen. The hashtag is hashtag kitalong2018. That's on Instagram. Also, there's a thread on the Ravelry podcast page where you can chatter away, and a finished objects thread. Keep your chatter out of there. I'll be drawing from both threads. I have been getting some really great prizes. I wanted to share with you one prize that we received for the kit along. Why don't I tell you a little bit about what the kit along is for those of you who don't know yet. The kit along will be running January 1st through March 31st, and any fiber art kit that you have that you complete during that time, they can be works in progress, I don't mind. Put it on in the Ravelry podcast group, chatter away your progress in the chatter thread, and then when you finished your object, put it in the finished objects thread. I am accepting all things fiber. I think we have obviously, we've got knitting. We might have some crochet. We do. We have some crocheted toys. Just go check out the chatter thread. Lots of fun things. There's even latch hook, which warmed the cockles of my heart because that is really the first fiber art I ever got into, was the latch hooking. So join us there. Again, it runs through March 31st. The first prize that we got in was from my friend Carrie at Creative Obsession. The Creative Obsession podcast, that's how I first learned of Carrie. She is such an amazing fiber artist. She does all the arts, not only fiber arts, but on her podcast you can find some painting things that she's done. It's such an interesting podcast, and she just has such an amazing way with color. This is her card. You can find her at the Creative Podcast. The Creative Obsession podcast, and she also has been dyeing yarn, and she sent me a prize for our kit along. She actually sent a prize for you, the winner, as well as one for me to keep, and I don't know which one to keep. So this is the first set that she sent. It's in Boots and Bows, which is this one. There's just a little hint of like a cream color and a brown. Oh, it's just gorgeous. She has such a way with color. She is a quilter. She has a long arm in her studio. This woman understands color. And this is the other one that kind of goes with it. This is a one of a kind that she's created. These are meant to go together. I love these. When I saw this bluish navy blue color on her podcast, I know she's held up something similar. That was one that I really wanted to break my yarn diet for and purchase. But then look at this combination. If you love pink and chocolate brown, this is for you. This one is called Chocolate Kisses with pinks and browns. There's beige, cream, taupe. And then this brown that goes with it is such a rich tonal brown with just a hint of that pink color in it. And these are all in her lovely sock base, which is the 80/20 superwash merino nylon. So I don't know which one I'm going to keep. I might end up letting the winner choose which one he or she wants. But that is our first entry, or first, I should say, prize for our kit along. She also threw in a really cute pin. I don't know if my camera picks this kind of stuff up, but it says, "Buying yarn keeps me from unraveling." Very cute. So thank you, Carrie. I love your podcast. I love your projects. I love watching what you do, and I really appreciate your donation to the podcast for the Kit Along 2018. Okay, so that we have another prize that's coming, which I'll share with you as soon as I get that as well. That is another amazing prize. And then I have a third idea for a prize as well. So and if you have any, if you're a maker and you want to donate to the Kit Along 2018 prize pool, that would be awesome. Just shoot me a Instagram instant message or email me at treehouseknits@gmail.com and let me know how I can get in touch with you. So I hope you'll consider joining along. They can be small projects, they can be a big project. We already have, I think, a couple items in the finished objects thread. So join along, you've got a few months here to play along. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk about, the other along that I'm doing is a mitten knit along, and I am following the hashtag Year of the Mitten 2018. I don't know if any of you were able to catch the Instagram live that I did with Patricia, P410 on Instagram. She lives in Norway. She's originally from the United States, but she's married to a Norwegian and has, I believe, 2 lovely children. She's lived in Norway for many, many years. She and I had a really fun Instagram live. I think it was last Sunday. Was it? Or maybe 2 weeks ago. We talked about Selbu Mittens and she shared a lot of information that she has about the Selbu Mitten, her project that she's working on, and the Year of the Mitten 2018. I know there's a lot of other podcasts that are doing mitten knit-alongs. I know that Carrie and Tiffany, Carrie is My Wool Mitten and Tiffany is from the Woolen Homestead. They're doing a year-long mitten KAL as well. So there's a few mitten alongs that are going along that you can kind of double dip. My goal is to knit a pair of mittens a month, and I am thoroughly enjoying my Selbu knitting, my color knitting that I'm doing. So I'll share with you where I'm at with that a little bit later in the podcast. But I just wanted to mention that I am doing the hashtag Year of the Mitten 2018 as well. And I loved doing that Instagram live with Patricia. That was super, super fun. I'm also going to be putting out, maybe it's out already before you're even watching this podcast, but I thought I would put out a quick tutorial on how to do, one way to do a thumb for the Selbu mitten. So look for that tutorial coming up from on the Treehouse Knits channel. You know, with all these knit-alongs and make-alongs happening, I've found that I need to stay on top of them because I really want to join in on them, but what happens is I tend to forget about them. 2 things that I've started to do in my little planner that I have, I do have a tab, or not a tab, but a booklet that I have just for my podcast, and I keep that particular little book in my traveler's notebook on me all the time. It's in my purse. It's small enough. This is a pocket size. And if I think of things that I want to talk about on the podcast, I can just quickly open it up and jot it in on the notes. Well, on the cover page of the podcast, I have been starting to just write on there what the hashtags are so that if I'm on Instagram and I'm posting a picture of the project I'm working on, I remember the hashtag. That's a hard thing for me to remember. So that's one place. And then another place is on Ravelry. If you go into the forums section, you can actually separate your forums out into different categories with different tabs. So that's another way if you want to just highlight the podcasts you're following that you're doing a knit along for. You can put them all in that category and just, you know, once a week maybe pop in there and check out what everybody's been chatting about in there or what finished objects are in there. It's just another easy way to just take a minute to categorize them all into one category, and then you'll be kind of organized for the knit along period. Or just fly by the seat of your pants. That's fine too, because this is all supposed to be fun and not stressful. Okay, so you've seen the knit along prizes. Now I gotta open up my TN and go back to my podcast notes here. So why don't we talk a little bit about Christmas gifts? I got some really fun knitty related Christmas gifts, just a couple I want to share with you. The first one, I got my first nitty knotty. And what makes this nitty knotty special is that my father-in-law made the nitty knotty for me. He's been doing a lot of woodworking in his retirement, and it says to Rachel from Papa B 2017. And I love it. I think I know how to use it, but I don't want to demonstrate for the first time on the podcast. But for those of you who do not know much about spinning, this is a great tool for when you've plied your yarn that you've created. You just wrap it around the nitty knotty and it creates a hank for you. And then if you know the distance from these points, you can calculate roughly how many yards or meters of yarn you have. So I'm thrilled to have this little nitty knotty, and it's extra special because my father-in-law made it for me. My mother-in-law made for me this, and I think I'm just gonna call it a bowl cozy. I'm sure it has a name for it, and maybe you've seen these before. It's basically a hot pad, but it's knit so that a bowl, I'll just use my bowl here, a bowl can sit in it comfortably. I'm sure we've all heated things up in the microwave and the bowl comes out really hot. I usually grab some sort of hot pad or a towel and it's just, a little fumbly, but this is such a nice sewn holder and I've used it a few times now with, I'll make a bowl of oatmeal or something, and it's just nice to set it in here and you can hold it. So just another neat sewing idea with your sewing scraps. You can use it either way, and I've been told that it's made with all materials that are safe. If you want to put this directly under your bowl in the microwave, you can do that as well. So that was another handmade present that I got. Okay, and then the other fiber related gift I received in this really cute procrastinating bag. Did you know that procrastinating is a verb and it means to defer all other activities besides knitting? Yes, it is. So what did I get in my knitting bag here? I've got my first llama. And this is llama from Wolf Creek Farm. Again, my mother-in-law found this for me. Look at that gorgeous brown. It'll be super fun. This looks like this will spin up really easily, that it looks like it's well prepped for a novice spinner like me. But I'm looking forward to spinning up llama, and I'll share that with you on the podcast when I do. So those were some of the fiber-related gifts that I got for Christmas. I did finish one item over this Christmas, and this was a impulse knit, I guess I would call it. I saw a few people make this hat and I was in the mood to make a hat. We were traveling. I had a good 5-6 hours of car time that I could knit. So I went ahead and made this On the Sea Train hat by Espace Tricot with some leftover far, Woolfolk far yarn that I had from my sweater that I knit. I used that and I stranded it with this mohair, which is a sparkly mohair from, I don't know, Margot it's called, from S. Charles in their pearl color. I mixed those two together and I got a really, really warm, fuzzy hat. And I love it. It's really, really warm, stretchy, everything a hat should be, I guess. I'm not going to put it on for you right now, but maybe I'll insert a picture of me wearing it. Great pattern. Simple, very straightforward. What can I say? It's just, and it had a different decrease at the top, which I actually really like when I'm wearing it because it slouches nice instead of coming to a cone all at the top, if that makes any sense. So that was my finished object. Of course, Woolfolk far is incredible and so much fun to work with, and I feel so glad that I did not waste. I think I had maybe, I don't know, that much left of the far, so I'm thrilled about that. So that's all I finished over Christmas, but I did start a few things. Before I move on to what I'm working on right now, I have decided that my Christmas socks that I was working on, I got this far on, doing them toe up, 2 at a time, my standard way on magic loop. I do Judy's Magic cast on 2 at a time. I think I did this one 14, casting on 14 stitches, increased to 72 stitches. I'm on a size 1 needle, and now I'm doing the ribbing from, I'll probably put the heels in afterthought right around here, and I'm just gonna do ribbing until the yarn runs out. This is yarn from, Mustache Yarn in their Tangled Lights, right? Of course, I've lost the tag, but anyway, it's in my Ravelry page if you're interested. But you know what I'm gonna do? I have it in this Christmas bag that I made a few years ago. I am going to put it in my Christmas bag. I have plenty of size 1 sock needles, so I probably won't miss this needle for the next few months, and then come next Christmas, I will pull this bag out and I will not be starting a Christmas sock, but I will be finishing a Christmas sock, which I think will be fun because I've kind of lost the desire to work on Christmas socks. So I'm putting this one in hibernation until November or December. So talking about socks, I received in the mail a pair of those Addi Flexiflips. Mine came from Germany, so they're not called Flexi-Flips, they're called Crazy 8s or something like that. I got them in a size 2.25, and I thought I would try them on this pair of socks. Now, I've seen mostly positive reviews, a couple of mixed reviews, and a couple people who don't really care for the Flexi-Flips all that much. I've knit quite a bit now with the Flexi-Flips, and I've determined that I still really like my magic loop. And there's a couple of reasons why. One, I can actually try the sock on with the magic loop just to make sure it's long enough so I can slip my socks to the cord section, put my foot in, and then slip them back to the needle. You really can't try on socks using these. Also, I can't do 2 at a time, which I love to do. This sock feels like it's taking forever, so that's another reason. Now, I also find that I actually tried these needles on a pair of mittens that I was working on with color work, and maybe I would get used to them, but because I had all of these points sticking out, it was getting in the way. My color work yarn was getting kind of tangled up, and I was fussing with it too much, so I took it out of the color work. It wasn't good for color work for me. It wasn't the best, I should say. And also, because I'm so used to using one long circular needle, I find that every time I'm done with a row on these needles, I drop the needle. It just falls to the ground. That has taken a long time to get used to on this. I think now that I've figured it out. Also, you probably already know each side of the needle, it's a different tip. One's the turbo tip and one's the rocket tip, so one's pointier than the other. In the beginning, I was always trying to use that rocket tip, and it was driving me crazy because I would end on the turbo tip and then I'd have to kind of look and see and then adjust. And once I just gave up with the tips and just used it, I felt it was just a little more relaxing and easier and less fiddly. But I've decided that I don't think I'll be buying these anymore. It was fun to try. I think it's really great for someone who's starting out and who's never used magic loop before, who has a pattern to use DPNs. I love that it feels like DPNs, but you only have 2 sides, and for some reason my brain just works better with 2 sides rather than 4 or 3 sides when I'm dealing with a pattern. I felt like it was a little easier on the hands than DPNs are, because with the DPNs I'm always, I don't know, I'm pulling a little bit more. These just kind of fall nicely. Although I'm finding that I do have a little bit of a laddering problem, and I have to really force myself, yeah, look at that, you can really see it in the camera. I have to try and force myself to really tug on that second stitch so that it closes up that end stitch. I don't have that problem for some reason with magic loop, and I think what the problem, or with DPNs, and I think the problem is with a DPN, your needles sit like this. With this, the needle just kind of sits out. And so it's not, the two inside edges are not close. They're just kind of out there. And so when you, I don't know. So I guess now I've come to the realization, at first I thought, oh yeah, I like these better than DPNs, but now I'm realizing that I guess I might not. At first I thought, yeah, if money were no object, I'd love to replace all my DPNs with these. I'd love to try a bigger size, maybe like a size 8, and do a chunky hat with these and see if I would enjoy that more. But for me, sock knitter, mitten knitter, color work person, yeah, I can take a pass on them. I think though it's cool though that they've come up with something new in needles. It's been a while since, I guess, the magic loop. This is a real new way, a new knitting tool. So kudos to them for that. And I almost think it's easier on the hands than double pointed needles. So there you have it. Not really worth the investment. They are pretty expensive too compared to other needles. But I do love this coating. This is my favorite needle material out there for sure. So anyway, these socks, let's talk about the socks. I think I'm going to end up putting them on magic loop, and I'm going to make a really long tube and then cut in the cuffs, put in the heels, and then when I get to the other end of the really long tube, I'm going to be making another toe there. So these are, what yarn is this? It's Regia, I believe. Yeah, it's their Regia Snowflake color. And I think my husband's gonna really enjoy this sock. It's a nice masculine looking, fun, yet fun sock. So that is what sock I'm working on right now, and just a little rundown on those Flexi-Flips for you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about another project that I'm working on. This is actually for the Kit Along 2018, and Meet, bald, and I don't know, maybe he's like a tweenager. He hasn't developed facial hair yet, although he doesn't have a mouth. But this is where I'm at with who I'm calling Sauron. This leg looks a little, there we go, they're equal. This is Sauron, who's also known as Sven, of the Sven and Solveig fame. He has knit up really fast. This is from a Barrett yarn, or Barrett Wool Company kit. I'm sure you've all seen it if you're on Instagram. This has been so fun. I love the change of pace. I get to do some color work, but I'm really loving the smaller nature of it, and just, oh, the eyes were fun, the nose was interesting. I'm following Susan B. Anderson's notes, that I'm making it the way she made it, versus, and it's very similar to the original pattern of Sven and Solveig, but she's made a few little tweaks to it, and I've been following her tweaks, and it's easy to follow her tweaks. You just go onto her blog and print off the blog that's all about her modifications. She stuffs as she goes, which I've been doing, whereas the original pattern had you do an invisible cast on so that you could really open it up and stuff it when you were done. But stuffing as you go, you knit from top down, and stuffing as you go has worked really well for me. You see, I got his first mitten on, I need to do another mitten, and then I need to do his beard, and then that awesome color work hat. Also need to make him a mate, Solveig. Although I'm looking at Sven and Solveig, Sven looks like an old man, and Solveig looks like a young lady, like a girl, so it looks like it could be your daughter. So I'm thinking I might have to give her some gray hair. I think his mate needs to be a similar age. Not that there's anything wrong with Sven dating someone younger, but I'm naming them Soren and Jenny after my great-grandparents, my Norwegian great-grandparents, and I think they need to be similar age like they were. So, well, actually, I think Jenny was a little bit younger. I'll have to go look at the records and I'll make them age appropriate. But the yarn, I got so much yarn. Let me just pan over because it's sitting right there. I can't turn anymore, but there it is. I have got so much yarn, and this yarn is so incredible. Oop, and now I'm crooked. Maybe that wasn't a very smart thing to do. There we go. Oh, I'm still crooked. Okay, so it came with so much yarn. I'm gonna have so much yarn left over, and I love, love, love this yarn. It's a fingering weight worsted spun yarn, and it's so light. I can't tell you how light Sauron is. I think it would be amazing for colorwork mittens. So I think at least one pair of my mittens this year is going to be in this Barrett Woolco yarn. The color work, it just does color work so well, and I just love it's not by any means really soft. It's not scratchy. It's definitely perfect, I think, yarn for a color work mitten, so I can't wait to try that. I'm trying to think what else. I knit, like I said, top down. I am not using magic loop for Sauron here. I am using DPNs. I found that the pattern is written really well if you're using DPNs, as well as the modifications are written really well. It tells you how many stitches you should have on your DPNs. So I'm just following using DPNs, and I'm having a blast using them. It tells you need 2 sets of DPNs because of primarily, I think, the arms and the legs. You need to keep some held as you're working the others, so you do need 2 sets, but I only have 1 set of this size. I'm using my, they're not the signature, but they're, I can't think of the name right now. You all know them, you're all yelling out the name. Royales, maybe? Knit Pro Zings. I think these are Knit Pro Zings, yes. I'm using those. And they're working so well with this yarn. Sticky enough that it's not falling off the needle when I'm switching needles, but not too sticky that it's making my hands hurt, that I'm really tugging a lot. But I found that I can use 1 set of needles if I use, again, a cord or a 9-inch circular needle just to hold the other side as I'm working. So you can get by if you've got something else to use as a holder. I think that's it for now on Sauron. I put a lot of pictures as I was working on it on Instagram, so check out my Instagram, Treehouse Knits, if you're interested in seeing the progress. Okay, I think the last thing that I want to share with you is the Selbu Mittens that I've been working on. So I don't know, in the last episode, did I show you this mitten? These are called the, I should grab the book. First of all, these mittens are from this amazing book. I absolutely love this book, Mittens from Around Norway. I believe 2017 was when this book was translated from Norwegian into English. It's by Nina Granlund Sather. I'm sure I'm saying that completely wrong, and I should know it. I want to learn it. We're becoming friends on Instagram, and I want to know how to say her name. But I'm actually making the mittens on the cover. These mittens are called the Heart Brooch Mittens. And what I love about this book is before each pattern, she gives a beautiful historical context to how she kind of came up with these mittens. And I feel like I'm learning about my heritage and learning about Norway. I am actually not using a Norwegian wool right now. I am using an English wool, and the wool that I'm using, okay, so the wool that I'm using is Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight. And I feel like it's a light fingering weight because my mittens are turning out a little smaller. And while they fit me okay, I know that the fit could be a lot better, especially in the thumb. I need a little bit more thumb. The length's okay, but I wouldn't mind a little more length because I'd love I just would like them a little longer for me, but I know someone who I'm sure these are going to fit really well for, and they're perfect for that person. So I'm really looking at, I had this yarn in my stash, and I'm really looking at it as my first kind of practice with this Selbu style mitten. Now I've already knit up, actually my very first attempt was this incredible pattern by Wenche Rold, and these are the Winterland mittens. I love these. you can see in here I had a little issue with color dominance. I think I recall switching hands with the colors there and not thinking it would make a difference, but I switched back and it makes a big difference. Big difference. But these were my first attempt. I learned so much. I would like to knit these again because it is such a beautiful pattern, and I know I talked about it a lot in my last episode. But these I'm knitting using a different method for the thumb, and I mentioned before that I was going to be doing a tutorial on the thumb on my channel. It's a thumb, it's almost like an afterthought thumb, so if you've done afterthought heels in your socks, you'll find it really easy. But you're basically inserting waste yarn. Do you see that green row in there? You're inserting your waste yarn, then you're just going to continue knitting up with your regular yarn. You'll see I've got the next row done. And then that green row you're going to pick out after you've inserted your needle in the row above and the row below. And I do have a tutorial for inserting afterthought heels on my channel if you want to take a look at that, using the cutout way. But really, this is the same way. You're just not cutting out, you're pulling out this yarn. So yeah, so that's the thumb I'm using there. This particular cuff was really easy to make. The color work I'm learning now, my tension is getting a lot better. I'm a lot more comfortable in catching floats. I found that to have better even tension, if I wrap the yarn on my left hand twice around my pinky and only once on my right hand, I get similar tension. If I wrap only once around each pinky, I find my left, my continental style loops are much looser than my right hand, and you can kind of see that in this mitten. The white was in my left, and you can just kind of see how it's just a little looser than the blue. These are so fun. These are so fun. I'm not getting like second mitten syndrome that I thought I would, because I do with socks. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to tell you. I wanted to share the tip for tension in both hands and getting that even. I know that other people put the yarn in the same hand and pick, and that's working well for them as too. So I might try that on one of my pairs of mittens. But I think that is all I wanted to mention for these beautiful mittens. The next pair of mittens that I plan on doing, I just printed off. Oh, I know what I wanted to tell you. In this book, and I'm assuming in maybe a lot of other Norwegian style mittens, they only give you one hand, and then they say, for the other hand, mirror the image when you're knitting. And so I went ahead, and how did I mirror the image? I could not just do that on the fly with the same chart. So what I did is I scanned in the chart on my computer, I made it a JPEG file, and then I edited it. I hit the mirror image and printed it out, and that's how I got the mirror image for me to work from. Now I know there's also an app on my phone where I could take a picture of it and mirror image it on there, and then use Knit Companion for reading the chart on my iPad. And I'm tempted to try that in one of my mittens and not use my technique where I use the Post-it note or the highlighter tape as I'm working up the pattern, but do it all digitally. And I went in and I pulled up a chart on Knit Companion, that's the app, and that is really nice too, because you just tap the line and it moves the line up to your next row, and that's nice. So I might give that a try as well. Get with the times, get with technology. But there is something about being able to write on the pattern. You can take notes though, so I don't know. We'll see. Okay, so things I'm loving right now. Things I'm loving right now continue to be my traveler's notebook. I love this thing. Right now I have it set up, and I know I heard from a lot of you that you're interested in TNs as well. This particular one is leather. It's from Chic Sparrow, and they're a little pricey, but it's quality. It's definitely quality. Now, on Carrie, the Creative Obsession podcast, I think it was 2 podcasts ago, she actually made her own, of course she did, made her own TN covers out of fabric, and that's inspired me to try that. I've ordered some inserts that are B6 size, and that's larger. That's a size that I've tried before in the past with other types of planners, and I just don't carry it with me in my purse. They're too big. But it would be nice to have one on the table here in my office, my craft room, and have inserts in there for each of my crafts, because I enjoy sewing. I'm really getting into spinning, so I want some sort of notebook for spinning. I don't know, I can just see each craft, because I like to keep track of what I've made and what I've used. And for knitting, I do that on Ravelry. That's perfect. But for the other creative endeavors, I kind of would like to have something that I keep track of with. So I'm loving my TN right now. The way I've got it set up is with 5 different inserts. So I've got my monthly calendar insert, which just shows, each month. And I keep track. I mean, I've got stuff already next fall in here. And then I've got my weekly insert. And these inserts are from 1407 Planners and from Lights Planner Action. I think they're both on Etsy. But I've got my weekly planner, which I sit down on, I'll just quickly flash it. You don't need to see what I'm working on. But I sit down every Sunday night and I plan out my week. Kind of a high level of what I want to get done during the week, what I need to purchase, and I revisit the schedule from the monthly and I put that into week form, and then I work from that during the week. There are some days where I want to get a little bit more specific on my work of the day, so I need a little bit more room than the weekly offers. So I have put in an insert that's just for daily, and this particular daily is from Lights Planner Action. And I'll show you, each page is a day, and she has on here notes area. You can put your schedule in. Even has down here, have you hydrated enough? I mean, you really can create this how you want. For me, it's just writing down a list of what I want to get done that day, breaking it down into specific tasks, that kind of thing. Then I have an insert that is just for notes. That's all it is. I keep track of anything that comes to mind. I want to take note on trips. I've got in my birthdays, people's birthdays, anything, random stuff for notes. And then I've shown you already, I've got my podcast insert, and this is what the insert looks like for the podcast. I use this for my different segments. I use this during the week when I think of things I want to maybe talk about. And this is actually where I keep track of my show notes so that I can easily write them up on the computer for you in case you wanted to refer back to something that I've said. So that's how my planner is laid out, and it's working really well for me. I would love to know, how are you guys using your planners? It's January. Everybody's getting a little bit more organized, I can see out there, and I'll be curious what you like to use. The other thing that I unfortunately have been enjoying using, I just want to make sure that you knitters and creators out there know of these wrist braces. I got this on Amazon. I've had it for a few years now. And I find in the winter I am knitting a little bit more and doing other creative things, and my wrists can start to feel sore. But if I wear these while I'm doing my tasks, it really stabilizes my wrist, and I can tell it doesn't hurt when I'm doing something. So I think this is really saving me for when I just start to feel that twinge, but I want to keep going. Wearing these have really helped, and this is the only brand that I know of that I can still knit with. I do have a really long one that I first got that I just can't knit with it, but these are small enough that I can still do my everyday work. I forget that it's on. But it has a metal brace right here that really holds your wrist straight and comfortable. So these are made by Mueller. They're called Mueller Green. I love the Velcro, and they go right in the wash too. But you can get them on Amazon. I think they might be under $10. So check those out. Treehouse Knits is trying to help all of us do our crafts comfortably. I don't think I mentioned what I'm wearing today. This is the Amulet shawl by Helen Stewart. I made this maybe last year. It's on my Ravelry page. It's Madeline Tosh Pashmina, super warm and soft and cozy and awesome colorway, great pattern like all of Helen Stewart's patterns are. Check them out if you haven't. And I think that's it. Oh my gosh, I forgot one more thing. The last thing I wanted to talk about was my sewing. I have had so much fun sewing this week. Well, actually the last couple weeks since we've chatted. I got that sewing bug, have some fabric, old blue jeans that I wanted to cut up and use and recycle. And I thoroughly enjoyed getting my project bags out into the world last time. You guys bought them up really quickly, and I thought I would do another round of them. I don't know when I'll do the next round. I don't plan on me having them every podcast, but I did really feel like sewing. So I have made a small version and a larger version. I call them my medium size. These bags, here's the small, medium. I found this fabric when I was on my Chicago trip on Lincoln Avenue. I talked about those amazing yarn stores and craft stores and fabric stores. This was at the fabric store. I forget the name, but it is in my show notes from the last time. This adorable wildlife pattern. They're wearing Fair Isle colorwork stuff. It's wintry. I just thought it was fun. Looks good with the jean material. So this is my medium size. This size holds a good 3 or 4 hanks of yarn and your project. So this would be the size I'd use for my shawls, my fingering weight sweaters, that kind of thing. And then I've made my standard smaller size that I love using for 2 at a time, especially 2 at a time toe-up magic loop, where you can cake up your 2 skeins and they fit perfectly in here with the box bottom. And just roll down the sides and knit away, make it into a bag. I've put my standard beads that I like on these wooden beads on the pulls, and each of the bags has my Treehouse Knits logo and more jean material for the tag. The inside of them all, I had this blue, really soft material. I thought, let's just go with standard blue. Inside you can see your items really well, and I thought it matched well with the trees on the bag. So if you're interested in these, they are now on my Etsy shop. I don't tell anybody about these bags. I only announce them on my podcast because I want people that watch my podcast to enjoy my bags first. So these are on my Etsy shop. The link is in my Instagram feed, or you can just Google. Don't go on Etsy and search for Treehouse Knits because you will never find the shop. But if you just Google Treehouse Knits Etsy, I think it should take you directly to my shop. But check these out, and if you're interested, I'd love to send one off your way. That's it, folks. We've made it to the end now. I hope that you have a great couple of weeks, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Treehouse Knits. Bye.